Hello, and welcome to the Sci-Fi Christian book reviews brought to you by the Sci-Fi Christian.com. I am Ben DeBono. This is Sam the dog, who is way too big to sit on my lap, but he likes doing that anyway. He gets a little bit whiny if I don't give him enough attention. So he will be with us for at least part of this review till hopefully he gets bored and decides he doesn't need to be by me every second of the day and goes and finds something else to do. So me and Sam are with you for the moment at least, though. And today I am talking to you about a reread or re-listen that I just completed of Peter Straub's book Koko, which is his first novel in his Blue Rose series. And if memory serves correctly, it's the first novel as well in the Tim Underhill series. I know that part's right, but if my memory serves me correctly, what I'm trying to remember is I think that only the first 3 books in the Tim Underhill series are considered part of the Blue Rose trilogy, and then In the Night Room and Lost Boy, Lost Girl, I think, are independent of that, but I could be remembering wrong. But we'll find out as I listen to all these books through Audible. So, as I usually do with the reread, I'll kind of start by telling you what my impressions were of this book the first time, and then we'll get to what I thought of it this time around. So I can remember reading Koko probably when I was about 16. No, I had to be older than that. 18, 19. I know I was in college. And I remember liking it, or maybe I was younger. I don't know. It doesn't matter. I was a teenager, 16, 17, 18, somewhere in there. Yeah, I think I was a bit younger. And I remember I was getting into Peter Straub because I had been obsessively reading all of Stephen King's stuff, and got to The Talisman, which is the book he and Peter Straub co-wrote, which is just such a brilliant novel, and then went out, picked up a bunch of Peter Straub stuff, totally didn't get him at 16. I wasn't using Goodreads at the time, but whatever I was using to record my books, I'm pretty sure I gave him high ratings because I felt like I was supposed to like him or whatever, but I didn't get his stuff. I remember kind of skimming through his books, liking them, kind of on a surface level, but not really understanding them. I went back later, a few years later, and reread a couple of them. And when I did that, really like Ghost Story, so I'll probably listen to that one again. I know I reread Koko at one point, and I think again didn't quite get it, but liked it on that surface level. So, but I wanted to reread the other Tim Underhill books, and so I figured, well, even though I've reread this one and don't remember loving it, I'll start with this one anyway, listen to it, and then move on to the others. And I have to say, this was a case where even though I don't remember loving this one, this is an incredible book. I think that it's a book that takes a certain level of maturity to really grasp, which is why, it was a stupid idea to read it at 16. I mean, not that I would have known or anything, because I hadn't really heard of the book before I picked it up, but this book is just the wrong type of book to read as a teenager. You need to get some life experience under your belt before you tackle Peter Straub, and maybe especially this one. But listening to it, I was just blown away by what he does in this novel. It's a complete masterpiece. This is brilliant, brilliant writing. We'll get the bad out of the way first. I mean, the worst part of the book, the title. The title, thanks to that stupid gorilla who does sign language or whatever. Or maybe I'm getting my famous gorillas mixed up, but, Koko the gorilla, that's what everybody thinks of the first time you hear the title. And so the title's kind of ridiculous and almost a little embarrassing, but to say, I'm reading this novel called Koko, but it's not about the gorilla, it's really a horror novel, and it's about Vietnam and all this. So the title, easily the worst part of this book. I wish he'd called it something else due to that unfortunate association. But on the other hand, I gotta give him this. It actually works in the story, and it fits in the story, both because of the name of the killer. He goes by Koko, but then there's a reason for that you find out later on, which of course I won't spoil for you, but it fits, it works, so whatever. Get past the goofy association, get into the book, and I don't think you'll even notice. There's I could nitpick a couple other parts. Maybe I'll bring them up as I go on. But really, I have very little, if anything, beyond the title to complain about in this book. It's that well written. Okay, so your basic plot is that you have these 4 old army buddies who were in Vietnam. The novel opens with the dedication of the Vietnam War Memorial, so I believe that's in 1982. And from there, it's about how they are led to believe or come to the conclusion that one of the other members of their unit is still living in Vietnam, or at least the Southeast Asia area, and is killing people, committing serial murders using the name Koko, which they all recognize for reasons that you find out in the novel. They, of course, go back to their Vietnam experience. So you have that as the setup. That's the plot. And so it's kind of a serial killer story and horror elements or whatever. But that's not at all what the book is about, okay? And this is where I say I enjoyed it the first time on a surface level, like, oh, cool, it's a serial killer or whatever, and I like Silence of the Lambs, so here we go with this. This should be good too. It's not about the serial killer. It's not even about the killings. This book is so much deeper than that. And so I'm not going to talk about the plot specifics, because to talk more about the plot specifics beyond what I've just given you would be to travel into spoiler territory, and this is a book that you really want to experience for your first time, just kind of let it unfold for you. Even though, as I've mentioned on podcast and on these reviews, I do think the whole spoiler thing is really overdone these days. But I think for a book like this, just let it kind of wash over you. Let it, you experience it moment to moment, page by page. And I think that's going to be really the best way to go. So this is a great book from that point. So I'm not going to talk about the plot, but let me talk to you about what the book is about, which, as so many great stories and novels, has little to do with the plot. The plot is a complement to what this book is about. The plot draws out those themes, but the plot is not what the book is about. The book is about identity, or at least that's one of the main themes in it. That's one of the ways that you could take this book. Nearly every character is 2 or more people. And what I mean by that isn't that, there's split personalities or whatever going on in the book with everybody. It doesn't take place in a psycho ward. But what I mean is that, for example, we've got these 4 guys from Vietnam, and it becomes very clear early on in the book. They have who they are in the present day, 1982, and who they were in Vietnam. And to most of these guys, that feels like 2 very different people. They don't feel like the same person as they were back in now. So there's this duality. And that theme gets repeated again and again in so many brilliant ways. There are so many connections where 2 characters will represent the same side of the same theme, but often in very surprising and unexpected ways. There are objects in this book that share this duality, so you have this sense of complexity in identity that runs throughout the novel. And it is wonderful for a way to explore Vietnam, the class, or any war, I guess, kind of the classic sense of who I was in combat versus who I am in day-to-day life with a wife and kids or whatever. So there's that sense. Works really well on that, and especially for somebody like myself, where I obviously too young to have been alive during Vietnam. I think stuff like that is really important. It's important to hear from that generation, and to hear in a way like this that explores, not just on a historical level, but on this thematic level, what does that do to individuals? What does that do to our country? And et cetera, et cetera. So we have that's a very powerful theme. But even in the novel itself, that theme kind of runs through the structure. There's different ways where the structure of the novel contributes to a sense of a dual identity. From maybe even the sense where I think you could take this novel as who's really telling the story? Is there an unreliable narrator involved? Is the story even actually happening within the fictional universe, or is it somebody's expression of their inner anguish of working out their demons from what happened in Vietnam? So many different ways that you could take this, and Peter Straub never drops the ball in that. It's constantly engaging. It constantly forces you to think about characters and events in new ways, which works on that plot level in terms of being really engaging, but also even more on that thematic level that really makes you think about yourself, our country, our history, individuals, people we know, things that happen in our life, grief, inner demons, all this stuff. Straub just knocks it out of the park. So this one was surprising. I expected to kind of have the same reaction I did before, which was like it but not love it. I loved it. This is a 5-star book, easily. It's brilliant. I'll be curious to see what I think of Straub's other stuff, because for most of it, really, except for Ghost Story, that's the only one that I really remember pretty well. But the rest of them are all pretty hazy in terms of what my memory is. So I'll be interested to see what I think of those as I go back and reread it. I'm going to read the second Tim Underhill / Blue Rose book, Mystery, next. And I'm really looking forward to that. 5 stars for Koko. Don't let the unfortunate title turn you off. This is a great, great novel, and it deserves to be read. Well, that's all for here. I am Ben DeBono with Sam the Dog. This is the Sci-Fi Christian. Goodbye.